But welcome everybody. Be sure to hit the like button. Be sure to hit the subscribe button.
I remember in middle school when you felt self-conscious if you were the last one to go through puberty. That really went topsy-turvy, didn't it?
Sometimes the it's too much explaining yourself and it's too apologetic.
Be sure to hit the notifications bell.
I actually do believe Israel won't just bomb countless civilians.
Be sure to tweet this out. Be sure to put this up on your Facebook.
You have to be kind to people. Be kind to the guys in this mess in the first place.
You can put this up on your Reddit.
Chile is a country.
Be sure to cut and paste a link to this to go into your favorite Facebook chat group.
It's good to see so many normal people in here.
Now, spanking isn't just my deep, dark personal secret. It's America's deep, dark secret.
I've never seen it explained so simply anywhere.
Put this on WhatsApp. Put this on Telegram. Put this on your favorite messenger app.
Hello and welcome to the Untitled Anarchist Seagull channel. I'm your host, an Untitled Anarchist Seagull called Elise. And, well, just in time for the aftrekkers, as I've decided to call the fake-ass white Afrikaner refugees, to not enough quotation marks, on the planet to cover the word refugees there. The handful of them who have shown up just in time for that, the oldest family-owned slave labor facility in the country just burned to the ground. So I would imagine that they're probably looking at return tickets right now. They didn't think that stuff like that would happen here. Yeah. So I see Noah Samsen has published a response video to the bullshit blustery litigation threats from Ethan Klein. So I was thinking we might have a look at that. I've been wanting to see that. I've been wondering, because I mean the threats were just complete bullshit. They were based on bullshit. It was just pure bluster, and so I'm looking forward to seeing what Noah has to say, especially because, I mean, if anyone wanted to sue anyone for defamation in this particular dyad, it would have to be Noah suing Ethan, because, I mean, he has said some absolutely malicious libels. Bonsoir. So, gonna check that out. Yeah, fuck you, YouTube. We're ad blockers ride or die around
it's
here.
Me, Noah, long time no see. Today I'm going to talk about being sued, or being threatened with a lawsuit, at least.
Yeah, because there doesn't seem to have actually been a lawsuit.
I haven't actually been sued yet. Ethan Klein and Mutahar from Some Ordinary Gamers have said that they plan on suing me for defamation. They're doing this in response to a video I posted in March called The YouTubers Who Backed a Genocide. I brought up these legal threats in another video of mine, but they decided to escalate things by paying a lawyer to write a cease and desist, which they sent to me in late March, and in it they ordered me to retract my video within 3 weeks or get my little ass sued. Ethan Klein went on to read the cease and desist on his live stream.
Yeah, and it was pathetic. I mean, it was particularly pathetic because his lawyer insisted on including a statement at the beginning that was just pure, like, liberal Zionist waffle, including quoting the Zionist favorite token Palestinian. And that really just says everything, because Ethan likes to call himself a stalwart supporter of the Palestinian cause, and either he did not bother to look for a pro-Palestinian lawyer to take the case, which would, I mean, if I were trying to sue for defamation because somebody was calling me a fucking genocidal Zionist, I would want a pro-Palestinian lawyer to represent me, because that helps with the credibility. But he apparently either couldn't find one, or he didn't look, because he got some sort of, like, crappy liberal Zionist lawyer.
and over again on subsequent episodes.
He started his second video by saying, Ethan's threatened to sue me. It's not a threat. I'm going to sue you.
Oh.
I mean, it is a threat, though, until you actually fucking do it.
Wait. I'm literally going to sue you for defamation.
Uh-oh.
Noah said in his second video, Ethan's threatening to sue me. Have fun with that, I guess. He said, well, I'm about to have fun with it, and unfortunately, I don't think you're going to be having much fun with it.
He didn't respond.
I mean, judging from the letter, I would say, to the extent that anyone has fun with libel litigation, defamation litigation, I think it's going to be Noah's lawyers who are going to be enjoying themselves.
To my video by his own admission. He just read what his lawyer wrote for him and then said that his full response would happen in court.
I know he wants me to respond to every point in his video.
I mean, it would help the credibility along.
Which I will do, in a much more formal setting.
Oh, what do you mean by that?
And I can't wait for it.
Yeah, I mean, so supposedly, right. In other words, he's not going to respond. Either, I mean, I'm not gonna like jinx it and say he's definitely not going to sue, because maybe he will. But that letter felt very much like spending one's entire load. And it wasn't a very impressive load at that. So I have a feeling this is his way of saying he's never going to respond. But of course, I mean, it would be absolutely, I mean, any lawyer in this context would absolutely say to shut the fuck up about the case when you're contemplating litigation. So, I mean, if he's really serious about suing and his lawyer is actually going to rep him in that, not talking about it would absolutely be the move. Because the more he says about it, the more can be used against him in the case.
Do your cute little videos and all that kinds of business on your YouTube channel, but when it comes to, I'd love to see you reason out in a court document about how I and Mutahar support genocide.
Oh, it's easy.
I really look forward to that.
I mean, it would be quite easy. I mean, because, see, what the lawyer letter does, and this is one of the reasons it's just clearly very unserious, is it uses exactly one possible interpretation of the words back a genocide. Namely suggesting that, a personal, that it means like a personal commitment to it or something like that. I don't remember the exact words, but it was something, a personal investment in it, something along that line. But the thing is, the way defamation works is you have to actually engage with the reality that there are different ways people can read things and different ways people mean them. And the way that Noah clearly meant it, because it is the argument made in the video, is that he and the other YouTubers he listed were promoting propaganda, spreading propaganda that facilitates the genocide. They were providing material support for it in that sense, regardless of what their underlying intent might have been. Now, that is, but I mean, and that is actually a very easy case to make, and Noah already fucking made it.
All of the threats from these guys. As I said at the outset, I haven't been sued yet. It's been over 3 weeks since the retraction deadline, and as you may see on my channel, the video is still up. Here's a clip of the last time Ethan even mentioned it, which was over 2 weeks ago.
Noah Samsen, he has missed his deadline. Actually, Mutahar is in the chat. What did he say? Did you see that Noah's apparently moving out? Yeah, he's sorry, no video, been moving, etc. Video coming soon. It's amazing how nobody wants to respond to me. Everybody goes cold feet. If you're going to level an attack against me, the least you could do is respond.
God, I love this, man. Why won't you play with me? Why does no one want to play with me? Come on. Ever since the retraction deadline passed.
I mean, it's particularly wild because the YouTubes are actually kind of clogged with people quite beyond the Klein-Samsen dyad, as I've decided to call it, because that sounds very academic. Just for no good reason, who have published responses pointing out just what complete and utter nonsense Ethan's threats are.
the ball has been
And
in
now
Ethan's
obviously
court.
Noah is
Not
right.
responding to a cease and desist is a response on its own, right? According to these people, I'm still actively defaming them because my video is still public, so it's on them to do something about it. But again, aside from some beautiful bills, my mailbox remains empty. If you're wondering where I've been, there's a few reasons I haven't really been able to post much. I had some personal things going on. I recently moved. I also got doxxed by a certain community of fans of a certain podcast, which I'll talk about in another video.
Yeah.
But one of the things that
I mean, not to mention that fucking Ethan swatted him. I mean, I can't help. I have to keep bringing that up. Because, again, this is just one example of why Ethan is the one. If anyone had to worry about fucking defamation litigation, Ethan's lawyer should be worried about that. Because Ethan didn't just totally willfully misinterpret we in the Palestinian Solidarity Movement need to bring up our game in fighting against this genocide and do more than just talk, to try to twist that into a specific call for violence against Ethan. But then he went on to tell people to call the FBI and tell them that. Like, yeah, so Noah's got reasons to have moved, actually.
I've been dealing with is preparing for the possibility of being sued. This is all new to me. I've never been sued, and I've never sued anybody, so I had to spend some time and money learning about defamation law and talking to lawyers and free speech organizations. One thing I was definitely advised was to not post for a little while because anything said online would very likely be used against me in a potential lawsuit.
And the same goes for Ethan. Yeah, I mean, what he's saying is absolutely true. You would not want people making public statements about the case that haven't been cleared by their lawyers, because they might say some shit that completely torpedoes the arguments their lawyers are going to make in court. And one would imagine if Ethan's lawyer is any good at all, that he's heard the same thing and he's also just totally disregarding it.
It's possible that
the
these
lawyers
people
must be
might
loving
still
him.
sue me because rich people can do whatever they want, whenever they want, including sue whoever they want at any time for any reason. But it's worth noting that Ethan has also been a bit preoccupied in recent weeks, going beast mode in some live debates in front of hundreds of thousands of people.
What? You don't know what I'm talking about?
What is?
What? Yeah, it was on the list. You're lying.
Yeah. I got a free
Cool,
Rolex
dude.
from a friend of mine. I still wear it every now and then.
Yeah, and you're so. Oh wow. Right, listen, it's 5 o'clock. Like I said, I have a family to go to. I have 3 kids and a wife, and I know that you have a fucking cool ass race car bed to sleep in, and I hope you enjoy that.
Okay, man. Thank you. Have a good one.
Well, I mean, it's such debating acumen there.
Another.
I mean, I actually could not get through. That was one of the things we looked at last week, was the Ethan Hassan debate, and I could not get through it because it was painful. Warwick, who is an occasional visitor here from the Latin American country that exists to confuse GeoGuessr players because it looks like South America, it looks like Central America, and then it isn't either of them. Had actually warned me that it is, in fact, an absolutely painful thing to watch, and it was. I could not get through it. We ended up skipping through a whole bunch of things last week because of that. But that was painful.
Lawsuit that he's currently losing to a former billionaire, which is a thing that's actually happening right now. He could be on the hook for a lot of money, which is crazy. So maybe he's just busy. And
Oh yeah, that's right.
Eventually.
He lost an appeal in that case.
Personally, though, I don't think they're going to follow through with these threats for a few reasons, but the biggest one is just that they don't have a case. I think it's pretty clear that this cease and desist was sent to me with one goal, which was intimidation. It was an attempt to silence my criticism of these creators' genocide, apologia, and participation in baseless smear campaigns against pro-Palestine creators and movements.
All he has to do to avoid getting sued is apologize for everything he said and did, admit he was either lying or ignorant.
I mean, he wasn't lying, though. He said, unlike Ethan, I mean...
And erase the video and also just disgrace, and just accept the disgrace that is basically lying about two people being pro-genocide, which is one of the most twisted, fucked up things you can accuse someone of.
This sort of
You accused Hassan of being a terrorist supporter. And unlike being accused of being a supporter of the genocide in Palestine, accusing a man of Muslim background of being a terrorist supporter, that can actually have fucking consequences.
thing often works.
Nothing bad has happened. What's the worst thing that has happened to somebody in the U.S., a prominent figure in the U.S., for who it has been pointed out is a supporter of the genocide going on in Palestine right now? The worst thing that's happened to any of them is, losing a presidential election. Ethan isn't running for president. God, please let him not. Let him continue to not run for president. But, it is not an accusation, which is one of the things that is really fucked up about this time we're living in, that is a serious accusation, and it is a true accusation that has been leveled with complete justification at many prominent figures in this country who are indeed supporters of a genocide. Active, material supporters, and it means nothing. It has no consequences for them. They're not catching charges for it. They're not, it isn't hurting their career. In fact, it hurts your career more to be against a fucking genocide. So, what the fuck, Ethan? You would have trouble proving damage because being for this genocide is the better career move in the U.S. That's like suggesting that somebody would actually face adverse career consequences for, supporting the destruction of Gorman.
Because most people just don't have the resources to deal
Andor, which
with a loss.
just ended, and I've had on my mind a lot because that show is amazing.
In my case, I don't have the resources either, but what I do have is you, an audience of people that have been very vocally supportive of the potential for contributing to a legal fund. I'll be honest, though, I would prefer it if...
And let's just say, Noah's not going to see this, almost certainly, but if he does, yeah, I'm certainly going to be sharing that link. I think we all should be sharing that link. It's just to make sure that because we can't have an adverse precedent on this, especially not in a case that is totally winnable, and in a case that where and to have it just based on the fact lack of resources.
They didn't sue me, not because I think they have a case, nor because I don't think we can raise the money. It's just that I don't feel comfortable fundraising for legal fees right now.
Yeah.
Many better places that money could go.
Which is another reason that it is absolutely fucked up to be threatening this utterly frivolous, defamation litigation.
Like aid for the people being subjected to this ongoing genocide. Seeing as they haven't sued me yet, that's what we're going to do. That's what this video is for. It's a fundraising video. I started a fundraiser for UNRWA, the United Nations Relief and Works Agency. The donation link is in the description. I'll also be
definitely worth supporting. Because in case anyone is not following it, they are under massive attack. Israel passed a law banning UNRWA, declaring it a terrorist organization because they just declare everything that anymore. More than they even used to, and they used to do that quite a lot. And of the organizations providing humanitarian support to Palestinians anywhere in the occupied Palestinian territory or in the refugee camps of the Arab-Iranian region, they're the ones that are the most reliable. They're the ones who are not screwing people over. They're the ones that are trusted, and they're trusted because they employ Palestinians to do the work. Some of these, Abu Bakr Abed, Palestinian journalists, actually, what he wants to be doing is sports journalism, but he's been doing genocide journalism for 19 months. He's now in Ireland, recovering from severe malnutrition and pursuing a university degree. But he's talked about how a lot of these NGOs in Gaza seem to be just letting food rot. They're not just distributing everything they've got, and so there's a lot of distrust towards, like, World Central Kitchen, for example, and other foreign NGOs with foreign personnel that come in and supposedly are providing aid and aren't necessarily doing much of it. And that is not the problem with UNRWA, and that is why Israel and the US hate UNRWA.
A fundraising live stream with some special guests and some gaming and hanging out and other things of the sort, which will start on Saturday, May 17th at 2 p.m. Pacific time, and probably go for a few days. I don't usually sing, but I'm thinking playing some games, maybe set up an air mattress and do a sleeping stream. I've seen that before. It looks fun. I've set the goal at $200,000 because that's what I was actually quoted as being a safe amount to fundraise in order to be able to afford a potential prolonged legal battle against Ethan and Mutahar, which is crazy, right? That's a lot of money, but I was also thinking we could show them that that's a figure we can achieve if we need to, and instead of it going to a lawyer for some bullshit YouTuber lawsuit, it would go to Gaza. If you guys actually do decide to sue me, though, in terms of the actual lawsuit, again, I'm not too worried. I told the truth and said what I believed, and I'm prepared to defend it in court should it make it that far. If that does happen, I'll just do another fundraiser, I guess, and then we can donate whatever we don't use once the case gets dropped. It could be a little, or it could be a lot. That all depends on how long these guys want.
Sounds like a good plan.
Drag this out.
I mean, and I have to say, way more conscientious than anything. I mean, like Ethan, in the lawyer letter, the lawyer actually claims that there's the definitive refutation in the content nuke that Ethan published. In a 55-second segment of it. And the main part of that segment is Ethan slagging off Netanyahu, just in very general terms, and saying how he once donated $6,500 to a Palestinian charity. And it's like, with the fucking money you've got, that's fucking nothing.
More about the case, the cease and desist, and a few other things. But first, we need to do a sponsor break. I gotta do sponsors because my videos get demonetized and I don't post that much. Support me on Patreon if you want to stop seeing them. Thank you to Delete Me for sponsoring this video. Delete Me is a data removal service that makes securing your online privacy simple, affordable, and effective. Your personal data is being sold online by data brokers, anyone can buy them, which means you're potentially at risk of being harassed.
Oh, and fun fact about that. And one of many reasons not to use Google Translate is that they do not anonymize Google Translate queries. Data brokers sell that stuff with no anonymization. So you can, I mean, there was a Chaos Communication Congress talk a few years ago where some researchers, security researchers, set up as data miners, as like a dummy data mining company, just to see what kind of stuff they got. And they bought bulk Google Translate queries, and they found wild shit. They found non-anonymized requests for European arrest warrants, where they had the name of the cop requesting it, the name of the person it was being requested against. Requested against, every single bit of information that, I mean, you as a user of Google Translate would not want to be available on the open market was there.
Due to any publicly expressed political views, opinions, or even your occupation. Delete Me offers comprehensive scanning across hundreds of data brokers, including emails, phone numbers, social media accounts, physical addresses, and more. The process is really simple. First, you'll fill out a search removal form. Then, once you pay securely, Delete Me will begin the process immediately. You can also request custom removals by sending specific links and run online scans to self-select data that you want to remove. I use and trust Delete Me because, as an online public figure, it's obviously a helpful option to have. But the benefits also extend to anyone with any sort of online presence, which is most people. Take control of your digital footprint today and protect your personal data with Delete Me.
I don't know anything about Delete Me, so I'm interested in it, especially because I have a few obsessive stalker types who have posted some fucked up shit about me, but I don't know anything about them, so obviously this is not an endorsement on my part, but
join deleteme.com/Samsen.
But when I'm not actually looking at a video that is specifically by a jabroni and they're sponsored, I don't skip over their sponsor, because Like, if it's somebody I think actually should get some support, and I want to be supportive of, then I'll speed through it, but I'll show it. Whereas I will skip over that shit when it's like fucking Aspen Goldfish or fucking Pim Tool.
About that defamation case, it really seems like none of the people that are supporting or promoting this lawsuit have any clue what defamation actually is. So I want to go over that very briefly.
Calling somebody a supporter of a genocide is a very different thing than saying somebody's career is cooked, or saying that somebody fell off, or making a video about an internet drama. One of them is...
I mean, what he actually just said, I mean, apart from that last one, isn't wrong, but the question, of course, is in what way is it different?
It's a real legitimate thing where people are bad, and the fact is that this is...
I mean, what he's trying to say is that it's what's called defamation per se. It's like accusing, I mean, I don't know if I would imagine it probably would be. I know if you accuse somebody of committing one, that is per se defamatory in the sense that you don't have to prove that it harmed your reputation. It's the same thing as like accusing somebody of a crime, for example. If you do that, if you're accused of a crime, then you sue for defamation, you don't have to waste too much time explaining why this harms your reputation, because it's understood as being per se defamatory. But that doesn't mean that it's automatically actionable.
Totally different than just a drama slop thing. This is...
Well, no, a drama slop thing can be defamatory. A drama slop thing, absolutely. If you falsely accuse somebody of something in a drama slop context, that can totally be defamatory.
Completely different.
For someone to be found liable for...
Well, okay. See, there are multiple levels to this. Like, for something to be defamatory, defamatory does not in itself mean... I'm talking about the U.S. situation. In the U.S., it is not the same as in, say, Canada or Britain or a lot of continental Europe and a lot of other places. So, the way... and I'm talking specifically about how it works with public figures, which I'd say Ethan Klein certainly is, and I'd say Noah Samsen also is, though less so. But, so, for something to be defamatory, it does have to harm somebody's reputation. Or, it has to be, like, reasonably, as reasonably interpreted, could be expected to be harmful to a person's reputation. But that doesn't make it automatically actionable. That doesn't mean you can necessarily recover damages, because you have to actually prove it's false. When you're dealing with public figures, and Ethan Klein definitely is a public figure, he has to prove, he bears the burden of proof of showing, A, that it was false, and B, that Noah either knew it was false or acted with reckless disregard to the truth. That is not a burden he would be able to carry.
For defamation, there's a few bars that need to be reached. First, the plaintiff
loss of income could be proof of it. Like, the point here is when something is defamatory per se, you don't really have to get too detailed in how you prove it. Because everybody, it's generally understood that being a genocide supporter is something that's supposed to harm your reputation. That's generally considered a bad thing to be. At least it used to be. I mean, now I don't fucking know. Maybe, now they'll fucking make you president. So, in a case where it is not necessarily per se defamatory, where somebody's making a false accusation that could be harmful to somebody's reputation, yeah, loss of income would be an example. If you could show that, you'd have to show causation. You'd have to show that your income stream dropped off as a result, of the accusations. You'd have to show, that you lost, say, sponsors or something like that you lost a job. You'd have to actually show some evidence that people think less of you.
that the allegedly defamatory claim is a statement of fact. Next, that statement of fact must be provably false. It also must have caused demonstrable damages to the plaintiff's finances or reputation. And lastly, the statement has to have been made with actual malice. Actual malice is a legal standard. It's the highest legal standard for defamation claims, and it's only applied to public figures. Basically, it means that the defamatory statements have to be proven to have been made with the existing knowledge that these statements were false. Now, the first hurdle...
existing knowledge or reckless disregard. So, I mean, and what he's talking about, the case that is sort of the leading case on this in the U.S. is called New York Times v. Sullivan. I'm writing the name of it in the chat. You can find the decision if somebody wants to torture themselves by reading a Supreme Court decision. But... yeah.
Ethan and Mutahar's lawsuit threat is establishing that claim 1, that they backed the genocide,
well, the first thing is you'd have to prove that it's actually false. You'd have to prove that there is no reasonable interpretation of the accusation that would render it factually accurate. And that is exactly the problem because, as Noah's fucking video made very, very clear, there are extremely reasonable interpretations, like the one that Noah himself used, in which it is definitely true. Like, literally nobody is, accusing Ethan Klein of actually, sending tanks or something like that. Nobody's accusing him of sending GBU-30s to Israel to drop on Gaza or anything like that. I mean, and so the only question is, so that is not a serious interpretation. Nobody would actually believe that, and you would have to actually look at the context in which the accusation is made. The context is this video, and the context of the video sets out exactly what Noah means, and you would have to actually show, in that context, you would generally have to show that what he says there, how he lays it out, it does not actually either that what he says is not true, or that it does not support the conclusion that he draws, i.e. that Ethan is a YouTuber who backed a genocide.
Evidenced by my video's title and thumbnail, is a provably false statement of fact. They immediately fail here, though, because it's not a statement of fact, it's an opinion. It's the conclusion of the arguments and evidence I presented in my video. In defamation cases, when distinguishing between opinion and fact...
I think that's cutting it a bit fine. I think you could argue that it is a statement of fact, in the sense that they did specific things that were in one way or another, directly or indirectly supportive of a genocide. And if you take the video as a whole, then you could certainly say that he's making arguments based on statements of fact. But what makes it unfortunate for Ethan here is that they are also demonstrably true statements of fact for which he provides evidence.
Broader context of where the statements were made must be considered. In the cease and desist, the lawyer they paid to write it for them chose to ignore this broader context, opting instead to single out one word in the video's title.
Okay, yeah, this is exactly what I was just saying. I mean, in fact, when you look at this, to support by material or moral assistance. Actually, I mean, in the broadest sense, even that definition really would apply to what Ethan has done. Now, I mean, the fact that he goes into the definition of genocide in this letter is wild, because it seems to be suggesting that he is denying that there is a genocide. Which, I mean, Ethan has now pulled the rug out. If he was going to make that argument, Ethan has kind of pulled the rug out. Because Ethan is actually now, the one, like, worthwhile thing that happened is Ethan is now, like, publicly acknowledged it's a genocide. So, he, I mean, would be in an awkward place if he tried to make this argument.
The word backed, characterize that word using one definition from a single source, and then argue that that word, solely using the definition they've interpreted it to mean...
Oh, wait a second, I didn't even notice this. So, they start out by narrowly defining to back as to provide material or moral assistance. And already on page 4, they've walked away from that and said, by material or moral assistance or otherwise. But the thing is, the or otherwise is kind of the issue here, because Noah was arguing that it was the otherwise.
Is a statement of fact and also a false one. And not only that, but this falsehood is...
And he's also seems to be suggesting here, the lawyer now, that you would have to... backing, saying things that are supportive of a genocide, i.e. like promoting propaganda that is designed to justify or deny a genocide, that is subject to the same narrow definition of specific intent that exists in the Genocide Convention for the actual crime of genocide, that's an interesting way of doing it.
Is one that I lied about maliciously. When evaluating defamation claims, headlines are not typically treated as statements of fact when the articles themselves explain how this conclusion was reached.
Yes,
that's what my video
absolutely
was for. It was an hour long. I know for a fact that Ethan accused me of defaming him before he even watched it, based on the title and the thumbnail alone. If I had to guess, I would say that the decision to threaten a lawsuit came from this knee-jerk reaction to my video's title and thumbnail, and that knee-jerk reaction was never re-examined because it didn't need to be. Ethan has money and time and no one in his life that is willing to challenge him on
and potentially the sort of lawyer who will write a threatening letter and not necessarily plan to back it up in court, which is a cringe lawyer thing to do, actually. That actually is not, like, a lot of lawyers hate clients to ask them to just write a threatening letter if they're, that threatens things that they don't think that they can back up in court, because that means that their letters are worth that much less, because that means the lawyer who receives it also knows that they're just making threats. They're just talking shit.
Something like this, especially not his lawyer who he is paying. So whatever he thinks and says is truth. So how do they go about trying to prove this claim of defamation? Well, it's pretty interesting. They actually go with the no, I didn't defense. They essentially claim, we couldn't have possibly supported a genocide because elsewhere we have said that we don't. We said...
Except that the elsewhere does not actually say that.
The genocide is bad, so we are exempt from any criticism for any other things we may have said that do actually support a genocide. For this point, one of the quotes that they cite is Mutahar's,
"I'm not somebody that is afraid to say that genocide is wrong. I think that there is an actual case of, genocide, and there's an actual case of attack that goes towards the Palestinian people." Which is, that is fucking piss shandy.
Saying, I'm not afraid to say that genocide is wrong. Wow, how brave of you, Mutahar. Aside from that being just false, Mutahar stayed silent on Gaza throughout the entirety of the genocide until it was time to join his friends on a Hassan Bad smear campaign. If that's not fear, I don't know what you'd call it other than, I guess, cowardice. But even if it wouldn't matter.
And that is the charitable interpretation, too. Fear is actually kind of understandable because, bad things are happening to people who have actually come out and publicly opposed the genocide. That's very true. So fear actually is the charitable interpretation. There's also just not giving a fuck or being okay with it.
Pointing to examples of lip service doesn't just cancel out other things you've said. Like if someone says that they killed someone and then later says that they didn't, it's not defamation to talk about the first statement without quoting the latter. I didn't think that defense would end up being used by an actual lawyer, but it did.
That example, it would kind of depend. Like if they make just sort of an offhanded denial subsequently after saying they killed someone, then leaving that out, then you might be okay, but it depends on the sequence. It depends on a lot of things.
and that's hilarious. Their lawyer's aware of that too, of how unserious this is, as evidenced by his total lack of citations for any case law in this section. This whole claim, the one that's supposed to be the most prominent one.
Yeah, his only citations are to fucking Twitch videos.
Is just blank, and that's because there is no legal precedent for the "no, I didn't" defense. They're just completely going off vibes. The rest of the cease and desist is just sort of funny to read. A lot of it is them saying, "Your Honor, he clip champed me. Your Honor, he literally didn't even watch the video." They spent like 3 pages attempting to debunk a Bad Empanada video essay because I cited it, which is just sort of awesome. It's been said plenty of times already, by Bad Empanada included, but you can't litigate a historical argument in civil court. That's not what civil court is for, and that's not what defamation is. There's one part in the letter where, in an attempt to evidence my malicious intent, their lawyer cites the disparity in the view counts of my videos, accusing me of the legal violation of...
Yeah, I mean, and Ethan actually made the exact same reference, and it was ridiculous then, too, because the thing is, Noah pointed out what he was doing there. It was very clear what he was doing, namely that if you want to talk about Gaza and you make the video specifically about Gaza, then fewer people will watch. But if you make it about drama slop and then you use drama slop bullshit as a framework in which to bring up what is happening in Gaza, then suddenly it does numbers.
Clout farming.
If you want people to talk about Gaza and actually see what's going on, you put it in some algorithm-friendly bullshit.
That you intended to not just have third parties spread defamatory statements about Ethan, but profit from those defamatory statements. You proved this point yourself when your video entitled "Manufacturing Consent for Genocide" failed to receive many views, particularly in comparison...
I mean, this is another cheap-ass, like, low-rent lawyer thing to do, to just see, because in contracts and other, like, legal instruments, it's very common to have a capitalized, title case term that is used to refer to something that has, like, a long description. So he just keeps on calling them the first defamatory video, the second defamatory video. Yeah, like, if you just keep saying it, over and over again, that's going to make you have a case.
To the first defamatory video. You made the second defamatory video to further profit from your defamatory statements about Ethan. Your Honor, Noah fell off and tried to climb back to relevance by putting my client's name in his mouth. I encourage people to make videos about Ethan because I think the things he's saying are harmful. I
think that I agree.
He's spreading...
And I also agree with the idea, if you can hijack the algorithm and make it serve people videos that keep Gaza in, front and center in people's attention by framing it in this drama slop crap, then do it, because, there is a concerted effort to make people stop talking about it, to make people think that it's not going on anymore, to make people not give a shit about it. So, I mean, yeah, absolutely good. It's part of why I'm doing stuff like this as well.
Real propaganda.
I don't give a fuck about Ethan Klein. I find him extremely annoying. And not always in an entertaining sort of a way. But, if Ethan is going to start shit fights with so many different people, and Gaza is going to be the sort of éminence grise in the background, that is somehow the framework in which the context of what's going on, of why there's I see I've got a link spammer. Hello and goodbye, link spammer. I love how these spammers think that it somehow makes it credible that they would be good at selling views when they're having to spam people's chats in order to market themselves. That's very credibility enhancing.
Israel's active genocide of the Palestinian people in Gaza, and so far that's been happening. People are making videos and more people are being exposed to the arguments against these ideas that I think are harmful. Their assumption here, though, that these videos could only have been made for nefarious, self-interested aims, that's just pure projection.
Yeah.
I think. For these guys, everything is about views and internet fame. You know, everyone is cynical and self-interested, and no one actually believes the things that they say insofar as those beliefs are able to get eyes on their content.
Yeah, I mean, that is one of the things that you really see. I think that, I mean, that is a very consistent thing, not just with Ethan, but with a lot of the jabronis that we look at on here. Like, a lot of these dickheads, they cannot actually think for a minute. They can't even conceive of the idea that somebody is making a point because they believe in it and they think it is important to make. They assume that it all has to just be put on. That's why, like, reactionaries love to talk about fucking virtue signaling or any of this bullshit. You know, because they assume that they want to convince themselves that deep down everyone believes the same fucked up Nazi bullshit that they believe in, but that other people, for reasons that don't make any sense within the context of assuming that this is how the world works, like to hide it.
There's no way you can be criticizing someone based on any sort of genuine political motive. No, you must just be wanting to jump in on the dog pile, to cash in and grow an audience of snarkers that are there not because they're against genocidal propaganda, but simply because they don't like you. For no reason. Even when you're being a perfect little angel.
They literally put in command centers under hospitals. There was more...
That, I mean, yeah, that is a lie. And it's really telling that that Ethan's lawyer did not attempt to even address that stuff.
Displaced than Palestinians during the Nakba. 900,000 Jews were forced choice, but because they were forced out, the vast majority of them went to fucking Arabs.
Well, actually, Israel played a huge role in forcing them. I mean, like, literally carrying out false flag bombings in Egypt and Iraq and various other places in order to terrorize the Jewish communities there, because they wanted to make up the numbers. And of course, Israel, I mean, like, if you know, Arab Jews actually talk about this, like Avi Shleim, an Iraqi Jewish historian, has talked about this. Like, Zionism made their lives difficult because suddenly they were being identified with the Zionist movement, whether they gave a shit about Zionism, or not.
Maybe it's just because they're anti-Semitic. That's probably it. They're probably all anti-Semitic. Anyone that doesn't like me is anti-Semitic. Ethan, through his lawyer, ascribes all of that to me because that's who he is. But, you know, not everyone is like that. Some people just don't like it when you use genocidal talking points because they don't like genocide. And for them, that's a good enough reason on its own to make a YouTube video. What I also like about this one is that to argue that I'm self-interested, they cite a video I made knowing full well that it would get shadow banned and demonetized, which
yeah, exactly.
Did. If I just wanted views and money, I would not have made that video. To be frank, the reason I made that video was on a pretty simple, basic principle.
Yeah, I mean, if you want views and money on this platform, then you make the kind of just bullshit that Ethan makes. Or you do Nazi shit. You know, that is the stuff that actually that the algorithm and the people who, you know, adjust the settings on the algorithm want you to do. It is like the stuff that actually will propel you to YouTube stardom just through the action of the algorithm and the people who program it is just, I mean, it's just meaningless crap. I mean, like, look at, I mean, this is a platform we're talking about here where XQC does numbers. XQC doesn't do fucking videos a lot of the time. All he does is, like, algorithm jack other people's content, sits there, doesn't really does reaction videos where he doesn't fucking react, and then uses their thumbnails to get their fucking views. And, I mean, YouTube loves that. YouTube fucking applauds him because he uploads lots and lots of fucking videos. Yeah. Like, anyone who is trying, you know, just wants to make a career on YouTube and make money will avoid these topics altogether. Or they'll do a crap report.
principle, which is being against genocide, and that principle manifests itself in me wanting more people to know about how the media is normalizing this genocide. That same principle is why I made the videos about these guys. It just so happens that when YouTubers are in the thumbnail, more people click.
Yeah, I mean, it's the only reason I give a shit about Ethan Klein at all. I mean, I wouldn't be doing anything to do with Ethan Klein at all if all he did was just sort of random crap with no particular, political or social significance. Where if he was, like XQC, as far as I know. I have not really watched anything by him, but I've seen lots of videos about his content. I wouldn't be touching it because I wouldn't give a shit. But he decided to move into like genocidal apologetics, and that's something I'm going to talk about.
On the video, Ethan is aware of this phenomenon. Obviously, he's used it for me and many others. It is unfortunate that more people care about what their favorite e-celebs have to say about each other than an active genocide.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know if it is. That's the thing. That is the trouble with the entire way social media, whether it's YouTube, whether it's Facebook, whether it's Twitter, whether it's fucking Blue Sky, any of these things. You don't really know whether what you're getting is truly reflective of the interest of the general public, because you don't actually know whether your stuff is going to be shown to them. I mean, unless it's like specifically people who subscribe to you already. So, yeah, probably there's some of that. But probably it's also that they're less likely to be seeing it in the first place. As you pointed out, the video basically got shadow banned.
That's the frame of reality we're working within on the internet. And I don't know, I think people are doing what they can to try to change that, or at least use it for positive goals, like getting more people to learn about the genocide. And to an extent...
I'm sitting here, he has a poster up in Japanese that is backwards. And so I keep getting distracted because I keep trying to look at it and, like, do the mirror reflection in my head here. Kaze o manaku tori no hito, mushi to katari, kogo o, nanda sore, fuyu ka? Shiranee yo. Something, that last, God, this is gonna be killing me because my brain immediately sees Japanese is like, okay, I must read this now.
For some people, this seemed to work. I got a lot of comments saying they hadn't heard about what's happening in Gaza or about how bad things actually were.
Yeah, in fact, I mean, just to give another anecdote here, I don't know if you watch Tanky Group Therapy, which actually, over the past year and a half, 19 months now, it's actually a really brilliant sort of group of 4 or 5 people, mostly the same people, but they have some people who are there part of the time and occasional guests and stuff, just emotionally processing the traumatic reality of this fucking genocide. And I remember one of the first ones I saw, this would have been in early 2024, I think. One of the people on the panel was talking about a friend of his who is a film director who does some movement work, but, because he mostly does not do political, isn't really a political person online, is treated totally differently by the algorithm. And, this friend of his, the director, asks him, you seem kind of bummed and stuff right now, what's going on? And he goes, and he just talks about the stuff he'd just seen about what was going on in Gaza. And the guy just breaks down in tears. He'd never heard any of it because he is sort of algorithmed out of seeing it. I mean, I see that, there's tons of stuff that I post that, on Facebook, where my mother also is, that all kinds of people see and she does not. She never sees my stuff. I also never see her stuff, interestingly. The algorithm has decided, even though we are friends on Facebook, not to show each other our stuff. It is wild. So, I mean, I can totally believe that there are people who did not who are not aware of the full extent of it and are still, even now, shocked by it, because it is very easy to be sort of sorted into the group that doesn't get shown much about it.
Until that video was recommended to them. And for most people, the only reason it was recommended to them is because I framed it around what some guys on the internet think about it. That was what I hoped would happen. Believe me or don't, it doesn't matter. What matters is that actually some people learned about the genocide, and they wouldn't have learned about it if I hadn't used these creators as examples. And the same is true for creators like Bad Empanada, or Overzealots, or Chris Kunzler, and more, and anyone else that wants to join in and use the algorithm for good. And they certainly would.
Oh, hey, Noah, over here, put me in.
Wouldn't have learned about the genocide from any of
Chris Kunzler's stuff is quite good, I have to say.
These creators themselves, because despite their claims to caring about it,
I've been a stalwart supporter of the Palestinians.
Fuck off. That just gets more ridiculous every time. Like, for one thing, just who the hell ever says stalwart? When was the last time, other than Ethan, that you heard somebody say stalwart?
Cause for many years.
None of them ever talk about it at all, aside from when they're, basically smearing its opponents and running cover for the country that's committing it.
They literally put fucking command centers under hospitals.
Outside of that, silence. As an aside, I think it's still open to debate as to whether or not this tactic is worth it. Like, is it worth the trade-off to get this information in front of more people when the conversation can so quickly turn from the issues and into creator drama? In this latest chapter, I don't think it was. Granted, I didn't really expect that these people...
I mean, it's one of the reasons that actually I could not with the Hassan-Ethan debate is Ethan very clearly wanted to keep it away from actually talking about the issues. Like, he wanted to just move it into all sorts of slop bullshit and avoid ever talking seriously about anything. And I mean, Hassan was also quite frustrated about it. He was like, kept on, what the fuck, dude? We were supposedly going to be talking about Palestine and stuff like that, and you keep on wanting to bring up all this other bullshit. I mean, he clearly does not want to be talking about this, and that is probably what annoys him. Because the thing is, every time he does talk about it, he looks worse. Hey, Riveroon, good to see you.
To actually sue me or threaten to, but I probably should have, so that's on me. That debate, though, is open only to people that actually care about and talk about the genocide, not you, or any of your freak show fans.
Well, I mean, Aspen Goldfish does seem to care about it in the sense that he has actually kind of said that it was a good thing. I mean, being for a genocide counts as caring about it.
As far as that first group of people goes, the people whose input I care about, they have been mostly supportive of these efforts. Do whatever you can to get the word out to as many people as possible. That's the feedback I've been getting, so that's what I've been trying to do. But again, that might not always be the case, and that is subject to change. Aside from the cease and desist being, a joke, the other main reason I'm down to clown in court is because Ethan keeps proving my point over and over again. Like, every day that passes and every time he opens his mouth on his show, he continually proves that my allegedly defamatory...
Yes, Caleb Maupin probably does use the word stalwart. Stalwart sounds like some sort of a skin disease fucking horses get.
Claim that he is attacking genocide is actually very correct. In the very stream he was supposed to be disproving the assertion that he supports genocide, he brought out the most explicit IDF talking points he'd used to date.
I feel like this is a force that's going to help end the war, not fucking keeping hostages and underground and continuing to provoke Israel to attack them.
Oh yeah, fuck you, man. Hey Badger, how you doing?
And putting fucking military complexes under hospitals.
Well, he can't fucking help himself. If I were his lawyer, I would be standing around his microphone cable with a fucking scissors, with a fucking hedge trimmer or something.
They literally put fucking command centers under hospitals.
The talking point he's using there, that Hamas builds command and control centers under hospitals,
is a complete lie, and it's one that they've been telling. A lot of people seem to have this idea that the first time Israel ever bombed a hospital or attacked a Palestinian hospital was in, I guess it would have been October 23 with the Al Ahli Hospital. By the way, a major German NGO that is supported by the state actually categorizes it as an anti-Semitic incident if you acknowledge that Israel did the bombing, even though the evidence very clearly indicates it. That was not the first time Israel has attacked a Palestinian hospital. In fact, if you go back to, or even a hospital in Gaza, if you go back to 2008, 2009, the Cast Lead Massacre, they fired fucking white phosphorus at Al-Shifa Hospital and I believe also Al-Quds Hospital. And before that even, they were regularly using the same fucking bullshit argument with no actual evidence to support attacking ambulances. Like, attacking Palestinian healthcare is something they've been doing for decades. And they've always told the same lies about it, and every single time they never provide actual evidence.
Isn't Israel's primary justification for the systematic destruction of Gaza's healthcare infrastructure for over 19 months now? That talking point is a justification for one of the key elements of Israel's approach to genocide. It's genocidal propaganda. There's no other way to put it. He is sharing genocidal propaganda to millions of people.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same thing if you were to, like, in the 1940s, share stuff from Der Stürmer as fact. You know, quote that as if it were an actual news source.
Episodes later, Ethan and his wife Hila downplayed Israel's mass-targeted assassinations of journalists by claiming that the IDF doesn't do that.
It's not like Israel. Look, it's not like Israel's going to do a precision strike on Hassan. They don't fucking.
Yeah,
but it is dangerous. It's a war zone. Like, I agree, it's dangerous.
It's a war zone. I don't think you guys understand Israel. It doesn't work like that.
They're not.
Yeah, it doesn't work that way. Like that, which is why, like, literally both world wars combined did not see as many journalists killed as Gaza.
Yes, they do. They do that more than anyone ever, actually. It's the last possible group.
Yeah. Look, I mean, U.S. Civil War, I mean, that's almost nobody. That's like less, that looks like, I mean, it looks like probably less than 10. Both of the world wars, you get up to, I guess that's about 60. Vietnam, the U.S. war on Indochina, which lasted, 1965, 1975 isn't accurate, actually, because the U.S. war against Vietnam started in 1961. That's when the U.S. invaded. But, but even if we just take those 10 years, during which about 5 million people were killed, not even 100 journalists. Okay. And then you go over to Gaza. And it is well over 200. Now it's like over 300. To say that Israel doesn't work that way...
of people on Earth that you could claim doesn't intentionally target journalists. This is just pure misinformation that is used to run cover for Israel as it commits a genocide, a major factor of which is limiting people's exposure to the atrocities they are committing. And the most direct way they can do that is by assassinating journalists over and over and over and over again.
And also, they just assassinated a kid who was a witness to the massacre of paramedics. He was wanted to actually give evidence a second time. He'd given evidence once already, and the next day he was supposed to give evidence a second time, and Israel fucking killed him. Hey, Giga-M.
And a couple weeks ago, in a debate with Sam Cedar, Ethan continued to expose himself as a propagandist for Israel's genocide. He repeatedly blamed Palestinian resistance for Israel's genocidal actions in Gaza.
They could have done that. They could have ended it after a week.
Hamas could have ended the war anytime too.
Indeed, if it were up to Hamas, the thing would never have started. Because they, on October 9th, 2023 was their first offer to let the civilians go. In exchange for no prisoner exchange, just let them go. Because they didn't want them in the first place. Like, literally, every single one of the captives being held in Gaza and every single one who was being held and died and everything, they would all be alive right now if it were up to Hamas. Because they've been the ones who've been trying to actually release them. And Israel has been saying they'd rather see them dead than free. And it almost begins to look like maybe they don't really like the way these former captives will give interviews to the media where they talk about how well that they were treated.
How could have Hamas ended the
By
war?
leaving, by releasing the hostages?
No, listen.
I mean, that's bullshit.
Israel has said time and time again that the release of the hostages is not going to end their assault on Gaza. They have said
Yeah, and also by leaving, just because Ethan doesn't want to acknowledge history doesn't mean Palestinians are ignorant of it. I mean, that's what the PLO tried doing when Israel was going to invade Lebanon in 1982. Because the official justification for that operation... Damn, that's a shitty freeze frame of Sam Cedar. Sorry, Sam. The official pretext for that invasion was that the PLO's armed wing were firing rockets at the Galilee from bases in southern Lebanon. So the PLO, trying to forestall this, trying to prevent the invasion and protect everybody, they left. They abandoned their positions in Lebanon. They took their weapons with them. They completely evacuated the country and moved to, I think, Syria and Tunisia. Don't remember exactly. And, they did this verifiably. And Israel's response was to massacre the Palestinian population, the Palestinian refugee population in Lebanon, who were now undefended. Ameaça, como posso usar? Ameaça. Todavia, não tem feito nada.
this over
I don't believe
and
that's...
over and over.
I haven't
They
seen
have
those statements.
It's convenient how you never seem to have seen anything that...
I've seen the opposite.
At any time they could have done that.
Well, what has Hamas done to end the war?
Hamas offered
What
the
have they done to end
hostages
the war?
early dawn to say Hamas offered all the hostages in agreement for in response to Israel not coming into Gaza.
Yeah, that was October fucking 9th. And it's worth noting, for example, if you actually look at October 7th, in Be'eri, for example, if it had been up to the Qassam brigades, everybody who died there would still be alive. That we have from the survivors, because the Qassam brigades were holding Be'eri for 2 days before Israeli ground forces showed up. And according to Yasmin Porat, according to Khadas Dagan, everybody was still fine, everybody was alive and well, they were being treated okay. Humanely is the word they use. I mean, they describe even being allowed to go outside because it was really, really hot. They were all alive. Everybody was basically fine. Well, what was that? We got some sort of... Oh, shit. Okay. Hang on. I seem to have got a problem with disk space. I need to clear off some disk space. My OBS just told me it wasn't going to be able to keep recording because I had run out of disk space. So, okay, where the fuck was I? I was saying something. Possibly something relatively important. Oh, right. Okay, yeah, barely. So, the only reason Israeli police and military showed up was because the Palestinian Qassam Brigade's commander in Be'eri, the Palestinian commander on the scene, told Yasmin Polat to ring the cops because he wanted to start the process of negotiating their exit from Gaza. And so the cops and an army unit roll up, an armored unit roll up, and there is insane crossfire at that point. Everybody's still alive at this point. Everybody in Be'eri is still alive and well at this point. Then the commander decides to give himself up and brings out Yasmin Polat and they hold their fire, and Yasmin Polat and the commander actually do survive as a result. Yasmin then goes up to the scene commander of the armored unit, explains exactly where everybody is in the house they were being held in. Gives him a fucking diagram, she says in one interview. And the guy's response is then to roll up a tank on this house and fire 2 shells in there, killing nearly everybody. Like, it is not too much at all to say that that if it were up to the Palestinian resistance, the captives would basically all be alive.
I mean, there's just to defend Israel's actions.
That didn't happen
as
either.
being inevitable.
What I'm getting to is Hamas, I think, they knew that this was the reaction that would happen.
Well, yeah, but that doesn't actually mean that Israel is off the hook. Just because everybody knows Israel's a genocidal fucking racist regime that commits major atrocities doesn't mean it's the fault of the people resisting that regime that regime commits atrocities.
By this logic, there is nothing Israel could do that can't be blamed on Hamas, which is a genocidal logic because they're committing genocide and doing exactly what he is doing here, blaming Hamas. This is the logic employed by the IDF and the Israeli state and its propagandists, and this sort of thing is what makes Ethan one of them. In this debate, Ethan also repeatedly conflates anti-Zionism with anti-Semitism, which Sam Cedar deconstructs pretty effectively, in my opinion.
This will never happen, but in a totally just world, regardless of your background, any kind of fucking Zionist tendency should be treated in the same way as being a fucking rabid neo-Nazi.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't even let someone be the fucking local dog catcher as Felix was posting if they've ever exhibited any sort of positive feelings about the state of Israel. I'm so serious about this.
See, I don't know that I would go that far for the simple reason that most people who eventually come around to realizing that Israel is fucked up didn't before, because there is a massive propaganda apparatus to convince everybody that it's great. So it's not like people are hearing the actual, hearing the facts and coming to the conclusion that actually Israel is based. They're hearing a bunch of bullshit propaganda intended to create the impression that Israel's a cool place. And then eventually they actually find out about the reality, and that is the true test of them at that point. Because either they find out about the reality and it's like, ugh, fucking hell, Jesus. How did I ever like that fucking country? That's horrible. Or they say, oh yeah, cool, and they start to defend it like Ethan does.
Now, to me, that seems like extremely dangerous, dehumanizing language about what could arguably be 70% of the Jewish diaspora, and certainly probably people you know in your family.
You go in and you're making this about anti-Semitism.
Yeah, I mean, what he's doing there as well is the overwhelming majority of Zionists are not Jewish. They're white supremacist Christians. There are 14 million Jews on the planet. In the U.S. alone, one Zionist organization, CUFI, Christians United for Israel, counts 80 million members. Polls show about 150 million Zionists in the U.S. So 150 million Zionists in one country, 14 million Jews on the planet. Jews are not. When you target Zionists, you are not primarily going to be targeting Jewish people by any definition, because the overwhelming majority of Zionists are not Jewish.
By doing this hopscotch about a poll that people had positive feelings that Jewish people do, and then therefore he is anti-Semitic, and honestly, that type of conflation, I think, is so dangerous and so disingenuous.
Yeah.
I have had a guy who went to my bar mitzvah, my sister's bar mitzvah, my kid's bar mitzvah, sat at Passover with me 3 or 4 times.
You know how many fucking puns on his name they must have at Passover? For anyone in chat who isn't familiar, Seder, I mean, he pronounces it Seder, but in Hebrew and Yiddish, Seder, S-E-D-E-R, it refers literally to sequence or order, but it is also the term used to refer to the sort of ritual meal that you have on Passover. Passover at his house, I mean, the number of corny-ass Jewish dad jokes off of his name must be just off the charts.
Call my father and ask him if I'm anti-Semitic. That is just an example, an illustration of conflating when he's clearly talking about Zionism. Was it hyperbole to say any time in life, whatever? The fact of the matter is this conflation is dangerous for Jews.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, it creates the perception that we're all cool with this shit when we're not. I mean, too many of us are cool with this shit, but too many people in general are cool with this shit. So, yeah, I mean, the idea, when you try to equate anti-Zionism and anti-Semitism, what you're saying is that doing all the fucked up shit that is Zionism is somehow an inherent Jewish characteristic, and that's kind of fucked up.
Is a fig leaf and a way of weaponizing anti-Semitism that has enabled Donald Trump to do the shit he's doing, that has enabled the slaughter of thousands upon thousands of children and women and men, for that matter. It is not keeping Israelis safe. And this type of conflation...
Well, I mean, it's causing large numbers of them to leave Israel, so arguably, in that sense, it seems to be improving their safety.
Is what I find far more irresponsible, frankly, than the idea that he said positive any time.
Not only is this another textbook defense used by the genocidal state of Israel, but what he's saying here is also anti-Semitic. He's using this bull to speak for all Jews.
Now, to me, that seems like extremely dangerous, dehumanizing language about what could arguably be 70% of the Jewish diaspora.
Lots of Jewish people think this thing, therefore criticizing that thing is anti-Semitic. Hey man, no it's not. The critics...
Yeah, I mean... there are lots of majority opinions that suck.
System is not about their Jewishness, it's about Israel. The only one here making it about their Jewishness is you. In the same conversation, Ethan blamed Palestinians for Israel's mass killing of peaceful Palestinian protesters with sniper fire during the Great March of Return in 2018.
They were marching in the Great March of Return week after week after week.
Sam, was there Hamas activity at the Great March?
Sinwar was marching. Sinwar was marching with them.
Were people attacking the border wall?
Like, they have every right to attack the fucking border wall. Jesus, this guy calls himself a stalwart supporter of the Palestinian cause, and yet every single time he opens his mouth, like, if you want to sue people for defamation for saying that you're a genocidal Zionist, you would want to actually not go on all sorts of different, streams and programs to say genocidal Zionist shit. Okay, I mean, like, his lawyer, if his lawyer ever intended to take this to court, and I have a feeling his lawyer probably didn't, because the letter just reads like sort of very second class bluster to me, but his lawyer must be fucking kicking himself in the ass that he's saying all this stuff, because he is not at all refuting the case that Noah made.
The Great March of Return, the first dozens of these things before the snipers, no, they weren't. So there were the people for peace.
There was Hamas activity. They were attacking the fence.
They're allowed to, like, who gives a fuck? First of all, I mean, like, every single investigation found that the whole thing was overwhelmingly peaceful. It was almost like a picnic atmosphere in a lot of places. You had people setting up and, like, having cookouts and shit. People had their kids and stuff. There was very little of even low-grade military activity, and it was totally on the fringes of the thing. And here's the thing, though. You have a right to use military resistance to an occupation, too. So, yeah, shut the fuck up, Ethan.
They were like trying to cross the border.
Israel doesn't recognize it as a border. The Palestinians don't recognize it as a border. And the reason that it was called the Great March of Return, Ethan, is because most of the people, like at least half of the people in Gaza, are from places on the other side of that fence.
They were like militants. Militants were trying to cross the border.
We know where he got this talking point.
Militants don't need to try. They've made it clear if they want, if like fucking armed groups want to cross, they will cross. They demonstrated that pretty convincingly at this point.
From his friend Destiny, and we've seen him use that before a bunch of times.
Overwhelmingly peaceful. Just as a quick thing, because people love to talk about the Great March of Return, the Peaceful March of Return. All this is like the Peaceful Great March of Return. Remember this, okay? This is all the Peaceful Great March of Return.
And we've gone over this before, but the human rights reports were very clear on what happened in 2018. Thousands of people were shot by IDF snipers, hundreds of them killed, while standing hundreds of meters from the fence. It's actually pretty insane that this talking point is still being used. Like, it's disgusting.
I mean, it would be amazing, except that that's just how all of this works. Like, totally refuted pro-Israel talking points get trotted out, as if the refutation had never happened.
And women, children, medics, aid workers, and disabled people were shot and killed. If your retort to this fact is, well, there was separate instances of violence at the border.
They were attacking the fence. They were...
Yeah. The poor fence. Will no one please think of the fence?
They were like trying to cross the border.
Whether you want to admit it...
Who gives a fuck? The border is their country. On the other side of that so-called border is their country, too.
Or not, you are doing genocide propaganda. You are offering a moral justification for this violence. There are plenty more instances of this sort of thing in Ethan's debate with Hassan, which I could go over, but...
I mean, it would make your fucking ears bleed.
I feel like you get the point by now. If Ethan is really going to go through with his I don't support genocide lawsuit, he should probably stop using talking points that support genocide.
Yeah, exactly. This is literally the entire argument Noah made in that video that is supposedly defamatory is Ethan is constantly, putting out genocidal talking points, and his reputation is that he says more of them. But I noticed the time, and it is time for me to wrap up. Thank you to everyone who joined in. I hope you enjoyed the stream. I will be back tomorrow at 11:30 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time, right here on YouTube, the tube that is you. Have a good night.